everyone, I'm Rebecca McLaughlin-Eastham, and as it's summer, we're on tour, coming to you this time from the Shuf Mountains of Lebanon, where we're attending the Beiteddine Art Festival. We speak to the cast of The Broken Wings, the first musical adaptation of the famous love story written by Khalil Gibran. Later in the show, we'll visit a Jordanian theatre brought back from the brink by its local community. But first, Darlene Hassan has more on the Beiteddine Festival's history, which started back in 1985.
High in the mountains of Lebanon's Shuf region lies cultural and historical gem. The history of this palace, Beiteddine, or the House of Faith, spans over 200 years, built by a Lebanese architect in the early 18th century. It was the personal residence of the Prince Bashir Shohab II, who ruled Lebanon until 1840. But the palace was soon to become Lebanon's cultural hub.
Launched on this stage in 1985 during the Lebanese Civil War, the Beiteddine Art Festival was a resounding statement of hope, proclaiming Lebanon's cultural status and the creative powers of its people. Today, it's one of the most prestigious festivals in the MENA region.
For 35 years, the non-profit Beiteddine Festival has brought art, culture, theater, and music to Lebanon. It welcomed local and international artists like Fayrouz, Sabah Fakhri, Elton John, and Caesarea Evoria. Among this year's performers were Oscar-winning Lebanese composer Gabriel Yared, vocalist Yasmina Jumblat, and Gérard Depardieu. Noura Jumblat, the festival's president, is the creative brain behind the program. She and her team are determined to continue with the festival's mission of maintaining cultural dialogue.
We are faced with many challenges because of political and social transformation in the Arab world. And somehow the challenges of 35 years ago seem insubstantial and flimsy compared to the shifting sands of the landscape today in the region. We hope for continuity and keeping the same standard and moving forward into innovation and technology. I believe this is the future of festivals around the world. Things are changing, and the young people have a different outlook.
Iraqi singer Kadhim al-Sahir, one of the Middle East's most famous artists to have reached the international stage, typifies the kind of Arab talent that grew up around the festival. In a long-awaited concert attended by 5,000 fans, he celebrated his 20th anniversary of performing at the festival. I had the chance to catch up with Kadhim before his show.
Every time that we've performed here over the last 20 years, I leave the stage and I'm sure that the audience is thrilled.
For many years, Kadhim has been a jury member of the Arabic version of the talent show The Voice, and he strives to offer the best mentorship to aspiring artists.
I do really care a lot about my team, giving them the best, because I was in their position a long time ago.
And who knows, maybe one day Kadhim's protégés will be performing on the same stage, upholding the spirit of Beiteddine's festival to always bring something new, uplifting and culturally enriching to the masses.
Born in 1883, the works of Lebanese author, poet and philosopher Khalil Gibran are loved not only in his homeland but also worldwide. For the first time, one of his seminal works has been set to music, and Inspire was on the ground to see its regional debut.
Khalil Gibran is a literary treasure of the Middle East, often referred to as the Shakespeare of the region. His most famous works include the best-selling book of fables, The Prophet, and now his 1912 autobiographical novel, The Broken Wings, has been adapted into a musical, which, following its London debut, has come home to Lebanon. It tells Gibran's great and melancholic love story, when he, as a teenager, fell for a young woman called Selma, whose father married her off to the nephew of an influential bishop. The forced union shattered the lovers' chances of ever being together. The tragedy touches upon issues which still resonate today, from the rights of women to the role of religion in society. Bronna Langan from Ireland was the show's director, and she says the backdrop of the 19th century palace lent itself well to Gibran's dramatic narrative.
At first, I was like, how will we make this work? But looking at the architecture, I mean, you could not create a better or more apt set for the whole piece.
The show was co-written by Lebanese-British performance artist Nadim Naman, who also plays the narrator and aging Gibran in the musical.
You're basically tasked with bringing Gibran home, a huge responsibility, and he's somewhat underrepresented in the region so far, especially in Lebanon. Why has that been the case?
Whilst he was alive and working, he wasn't really a Middle Eastern presence. He was here until the age of 12, and then he went to Boston for 5 years, and he returned for a few years at the age of 18, but that was it. It's interesting that, as you say, he hasn't necessarily been represented enough. And I almost think that's because it's the legacy of his work and his words posthumously. Like in recent decades, he's really come to the fore, but at the time he was a bit of a mystery. And it's always a shock when you tell people he was the third best-selling poet of all time.
You touched upon Gibran being an immigrant from the Middle East who travelled to the United States. We can't ignore that there is obviously a dialogue regionally, domestically going on with the plight of refugees. Have you explored those themes in this production?
We certainly have. And I think it's one of the themes that struck a chord with us when we read the book. I don't believe there's much point in doing a piece of theatre if you aren't going to ask questions of your audience and ask them to think a little bit about what's being shown on stage. And I always have this question about Gibran, age 12, his family has lost everything, and they get on a boat and go to Boston and they're welcomed. Probably wouldn't happen today in 2019.
Now, we sit here in a region which has a lot of West End and Broadway productions come to tour or have longer residencies, but why aren't there more homegrown productions like yours?
Middle Eastern people love music. They love dance, they love tradition, they love performance. But there's this underlying current of the arts being a hobby. I think what the Middle East has failed to grasp until recently is that the arts is a voice, and the arts is a thing that can allow you to express yourself and your culture and put it upon the rest of the world.
Nadim's creative collaborator was Qatari composer and producer Dana Al-Fardan. Given that the two lived in different countries during the score's 2-year composition, technology played a major role in the process of musical and lyrical brainstorming.
This is a writer whose words are global in their scope, whose message is international, who's relevant today. And so Nadim and I decided to come together and write this musical about these universal principles. So it made sense that we use technology to our advantage, and we were just sending each other material every day as and when they arose.
Dana, following the success of The Broken Wings here in Lebanon and also in London's Haymarket, where is it going next? Are you going on tour?
We're going to take Gibran global. I think that today, more than ever, at a period of time when there's so much emphasis on division, it's our obligation as artists to carry his message around the world, which is all about freedom, love, tolerance.
So stay tuned, especially if you're living in the wider Middle East and North Africa region, for The Broken Wings, or the broken-hearted life story of Gibran could soon be coming to a theatre near you.
Poor attendance figures has led to the closure of theatres in some Middle Eastern cities. But as Salim Saeed reports, one Jordanian community valiantly rallied to save their local performance house from tragedy.
Dr. Abdel Salam Qubailat's passion for the arts urged him to open Al Shams Theatre in Amman in 2016, within an environment not supportive of the dramatic arts. The non-profit playhouse had its first show in 2017, but closed its curtains shortly after due to a lack of funds. With community support from students, lawyers, and businessmen, Dr. Qubailat was able to keep running Jordan's only private theatre.
I thought of establishing Al Shams Theatre because there is no theatre in Jordan, and this is important for any country or any society. Here in Jordan, we have severe rigidness and suppression, and this is where the arts play a role.
Walk-in tickets cost around $10. There's also a subsidized cafe. Named after Théâtre du Soleil in Paris, the theater stages original content, with plays that satirize Jordan's political climate and lighter, family-friendly sketches. A piece intent on making audience members question their sense of reality is the tragic drama Sea and Sands, starring Hayat Jabir, whom is happy to act for free to realize her childhood dream of being an actress.
فكرة إنك تلاقي نص وتلاقي فريق.
The idea of finding a text and a team able to create a sweet mix of creativity and stimulate the mind of the viewer is very difficult in Jordan.
جداً جداً في الأردن.
The performance of Jabir and her troupe is not only inspiring theatergoers, it's motivating other onlookers in the community to tread the boards.
I aspire to go on stage one day and from the stage do other acting, but now I'm a barista and continuing my studies.
So whether delivering coffee or moving performances, the theater's community is committed to ensuring that the show must go on.
Well, that is a wrap of our programme. We really hope that you enjoyed it. And before I leave you, here are some social media posts that caught our attention this week.
Broken Wings actor Benjamin Perkis posted this backstage shot saying it was spectacular to bring the musical to its homeland. And engineering student Anas posted a photo of his theatre club peers in Jordan.
So it just remains for me to say ma salama from beautiful Lebanon. I'll see you again next time on Inspire.